Hello, welcome to HITC Sport, and Steve Bruce has been sacked as manager of Newcastle United. Is anyone surprised? Anyone? I mean, seriously, will this have come as a shock to any person on the planet? Sure, in this sport, there's a lot of managerial sackings out there, which are pretty shocking. I mean, honestly, earlier this year, when Tottenham binned Jose Mourinho just 5 days before a cup final, that was a bit like walking on your dad trying on your sister's wedding dress. It was a bit like walking through Disneyland Paris as a child and walking in on Goofy making love to Buzz Lightyear in the Space Mountain toilets. Yeah, that's an image which will stay with me until death. But this, the richest club on the planet, sacking Steve Bruce, it's like hearing that the new owner of a restaurant cleaned a skid mark off the kitchen wall. Yes, I should hope so. Listen, Steve Bruce should never have taken the job. This was an ugly pairing from the get-go that was never going to work. I mean, it's a bit like getting into a Facebook relationship with your second cousin. Yeah, have fun when she gives birth to a child with 3 years. It's not personal, Steve. Anyone replacing Rafa Benitez under the Mike Ashley ownership in the summer of 2019. Well, the Geordies were always going to view them the same way you would the new ugly stepmom who broke up your parents' marriage. You know, the one whose face looks like the underside of a shoe and who constantly fills the kitchen with a stale stench of toe sweat. It doesn't matter if she does whip up a killer shepherd's pie. You're gonna want to push her down the stairs. I suppose when an idle Sam Allardyce is turning his nose up at the Newcastle job that summer in favour of eventually getting the gig at West Brom, that's how you know. That's when Bruce should have realised that the job was about as attractive as cleaning the toilets of a geriatric strip club. Allardyce knew he'd have got all of this abuse, and actually it would have been even worse. Bruce was never able to beat Newcastle as Sunderland boss. Allardyce did, relegated Newcastle, and was also sacked by the club 10 years earlier. So if you think Steve Bruce got it in the neck, Allardyce would have probably had to move house. Bruce, you already had a decent championship job in Sheffield Wednesday, a place where you could gradually recover after having cabbages thrown at his face at Villa Park. Hiring a former Sunderland manager was never going to work, especially when you said things like this.
Bruce, I never dreamed of managing Newcastle.
Come on, what did you think was going to happen? The fact that this is a Geordie boy who never once pulled on the black and white strip for the Newcastle as a player, despite being a damn good player, show that he never should have wound up at St James's Park as a manager. Sorry, no, it'd be like one day the club offering the management gig to Michael Carrick, despite the man continually snubbing the chance to represent them as a player.
I think it might be my last job. It's been very, very tough to never really be wanted, to feel that people wanted me to fail and saying I would fail, that I was useless, a fat waste of space, a tactically inept cabbage head.
Christ above, he actually said cabbage head. The thing is, he was never given a chance, and I think some fans did want him to fail. They didn't want Ashley to be proven right. They didn't want Benitez leaving to be swept under the carpet. Honestly, when Newcastle beat Man United in late 2019, some Geordies probably felt a knot in their bowels. Christ above, this was one Geordie's response to him getting the job in 2019.
Steve Bruce has been confirmed as the head coach of Newcastle United on a 3-year contract. Just before I jump into Steve Bruce, I want to tell you, I've just bought myself a nice British Savoy cabbage because this is going to be needed next season.
You can't tell me he was given a fair chance. And I'm sorry, when he was announced as Benitez's successor, most of the Newcastle fan base were already mentally preparing for relegation. I thought they'd finished bottom of the league.
20th Newcastle. Yeah, strap yourself in, lads. Newcastle with Steve Bruce at the helm and Dwight Gale up front. Trying to predict where Newcastle will finish with Steve Bruce in charge is like trying to guess what condition your hand will be if you shove it right in the lawnmower. Somewhere from screwed to rightly screwed.
If you had told any of them that he would wind up equaling Rafa's points total of 44 and 45, finishing in 13th position, again, that was the same position Benitez left the club in 2019, and then he follows it up with 12th, I know for a fact they'd have snapped your arm clean off its socket. There's been some ugly performances, some wretched runs of form, including this season.
Oh, Newcastle have never been as bad as this.
I'm sorry, are we forgetting that Benitez, Lord Rafa Benitez, didn't win any of his first 10 games in charge in his final season? Newcastle spent the Halloween of 2018 joined bottom of the league on 3 points, pretty much where they are right now. But was he spoken about as if he's the worst manager in history? No, the fans still sung his name. He didn't have cabbages thrown at his car. He didn't have Geordies picking fights with his son on Twitter. Were there sack Rafa campaigns? No, the fans still sung his name even after 3 points and 19th. I realise Bruce has been given more money to spend than Rafa, but I'll keep saying it, is a £40 million Joe Linton really much of an advantage? It's like working as a chef in a Chinese takeaway and somebody gives you an expensive stethoscope. I'm sorry, what are you supposed to do with that? Listen, I know Alison Maximin has been a brilliant signing, but I'm sorry, for the money he cost, Benitez went and spent that same transfer fee on Jacob Murphy. So, come on! like it or not, Bruce has had an identical time as Rafa Benitez has at Newcastle. Actually, wait, no, that's not true actually, because Rafa is the only one out of the two who knows what it's like to relegate the club to the Championship. If Benitez had stayed, and it was this identical style of Brucey ball and the identical results, I guarantee you'd still have fans begging for him to stay. But Bruce is gone, and I know Paulo Fonseca is heavily linked with the job, but do you know who's also heavily linked? Wayne Rooney has just been forced to ask questions about whether or not he's going to take the Newcastle gig. I'm sorry, Newcastle wanting Wayne Rooney? Is this August 2004? If so, then maybe that's why I've got an aftertaste of my granny's breast milk in my mouth. We stopped breastfeeding late in Ireland. August 2004, that was the month when Newcastle wanted both Wayne Rooney and Steve Bruce. That's very mixed signals of ambition. But honestly, I woke up this week to see stories where it said that Rooney, he wants to replace Steve Bruce as Newcastle boss. What? You mean the guy stapled to the foot of the championship table on 4 points? The guy who only last summer was probably in a sleeping bag on the couch. No doubt getting finger cramp for spending all night swiping left on Granny Tinder. Listen, I respect the job Rooney is trying to do with Derby County. Let's not forget, that guy gave up comfy MLS semi-retirement to come and have a crack at playing under promising coach like Philip Cocu with a view to replacing him as manager, maybe when they're in the Premier League. That was probably John Terry's goals at Villa Park, until he realised that Dean Smith was going nowhere. But instead, Wayne, you waddled your way into a broken club. I mean, just 6 weeks after penning that Derby deal, the club were forced to sack 3 players for drink driving. Mel Morris kept rejecting takeover bids, and now you're living in a financial swamp. I thought Derby County in 2008 couldn't sink any lower as a club. 11 measly Premier League points on the board, just 1 win all season, losing 6-0 every month, before the media eventually got their hands on a Paul Jewell Blue movie. Yes, Paul Jewell, Wigan's answer to Barney Gumble. And imagine he gets a stitch just opening a box of Jaffa Cakes. So, thinking of that tape, excuse me while I stifle a chunk of vomit in my throat. I mean, I feel for the Derby County fans. This is a club who bottled promotion 6 times in a row. It's a club who've employed Steve McLaren 4 times in his life, even as recently as last year, acting as some sort of part-time senior advisor. I'm sorry, but after the litany of failure stamped on that man's CV, that guy's about as qualified to offer footballing advice as I am to offer back massages on the beach in Brazil. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how I'd get a fork through the eye. The fact Rooney was forced to spend this summer scrambling through a bunch of rubbish for free transfers, forced to scour through his phone book and Facebook page to ring up his old mates and ask if they want a game, as if this was goddamn Sunday League. Oh yeah, come on Revel Morrison, come on Phil Jagielka. I wouldn't be surprised if he sent a cheeky text to Michael Owen, or throwing Rio Ferdinand a desperate WhatsApp. I mean, okay, yes, while Owen might now look like popping fresh cross with Samwise Gamgee up the Shire, but at least Rio keeps himself in shape and is only 42. Crazy, but you might think it's laughable, but he's just 3 years older than the guy who gets wheeled out every week in the centre of Derby's defence. It's an impossible job, and yet the fact he only lost 3 of the 13 games this season, the fact that ever since the administrative points deduction was announced in September, they're actually unbeaten in 4 games. The fact this ramshackle Derby team haven't lost a single game in more than 2 goals this season, then you know what? Fair play. Rooney is never going to be in a bigger crisis in his managerial career than he is right now, and he's doing pretty well. I mean, I'll admit it, ever since I first laid eyes on Wayne Rooney, I assumed he had a brain made of marshmallow. I mean, to be fair, it's not helpful when he spent the next decade very publicly dragging his marriage through a rubbish bin, in between threatening to quit Man United, getting drunk at weddings, and getting knocked out by Stoke defenders in his kitchen. It paints a picture of someone who, yeah, probably has the cranial capacity of one of Shrek's prematurely born kids. He looks like a modern day caveman whose idea of fun is burning ants with a magnifying glass in his garden. Crazy enough, when he moved to America to wind down his career, he still wound up with a mugshot, arrested for public swearing. So I assumed he would be a cottage pie coach, and the fact he oversaw 6 straight championship defeats last spring, only staying in the league by the width of a hamster's nipple hair, yeah, I had made up my mind that he had the tactical knowledge of a damp sock. But he has impressed me this season. But now, does that mean he should be given the reins of the richest club on planet Earth? Should Steve Bruce be sacked for a man with a managerial win percentage of 25? The man's a novice, a managerial rookie. What's he supposed to do with Matt Ritchie at left back? Let's not forget, Wayne Rooney is a guy who's openly laughed at the idea of Newcastle trying to sign him for £20 million in August 2004. He's a guy who gets randomly linked to this club once a decade, even as recently as May 2013 when Sir Alex Ferguson retired.
Wayne Rooney is target for Newcastle United, claims Sports Direct website.
3 days later,
Sports Direct sorry for false story linking Newcastle with Wayne Rooney.
The Mike Ashley regime, everyone. But the very fact that Alan Pardew was forced to laugh off this link with Rooney in the media, there is a constant connection with him in Newcastle, and I don't understand why. I don't want the next scandal at Newcastle United to be Wayne Rooney, Newcastle manager, gets slapped in the face by Amanda Staveley at the relegation after party in Purdue. I don't want that for Newcastle. Ozzy, leave him to punch fresh air Derby County. And Newcastle, go and sign a top manager. Ozzy, if he is the next manager of Newcastle United, then I will walk naked from Newcastle to France. Anyway, that's it. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about Steve Bruce being sacked? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe. As always, I'll talk to you in a while.